Hey guys, welcome to episode 27. This is part 3 of the special 3-parter where we talk about the final and newest, and hopefully not the last, Bill and Ted film. This is Bill and Ted's Face the Music movie review, and this is Thor, aka the House of R.E.P. Alright, so I was really excited about this film. This was episode 27, Bill and Ted Face the Music. How long have we been waiting for this film, Z?
For like 20 years, more than
Or
20
so,
years.
isn't it?
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
Hello everyone, welcome to the House of R.E.P. We're talking about Bill and Ted, the threequel, or the third film in the series of some great movies that we've loved over our childhood and our lives. And this is the latest Bill and Ted that came out this year in 2020, over a very rough year to be honest. And yeah, we're going to talk about this film now.
It's just like amazing. I mean, the fact that it even actually happened is a testament in itself, and an achievement in itself by the filmmakers. And also like Keanu and Alex Winter, because Alex Winter, bless him, has been trying to make this film for like the better half of like 2 decades. Like since the third film finished, he just kept wanting to keep the torch alive, and he did.
Since the second film finished.
Yeah. So basically, he's been trying for so long. So bless him, man. The guy never gave up, and this is a true testament of like someone who never gives up. You know, he just keeps going. And also Keanu, no matter how huge he got with like, you know,
John Wick,
you know, Neo, all of his kind of successes, he's still, you know, like, he just came back, like, you know, and stepped into Ted's shoes like it was nothing. And what's really interesting about this film is that they're kind of like a more kind of geriatric Bill and Ted, because they've kind of grown up and had daughters now. So what the continuity is, it's not a continuity error, because a lot of people might think it's a continuity error because they said, hey, say hi to little Bill and little Ted, because they had kids in their time when they were learning, when they went in that time vortex to kind of learn how to play guitar and got a bit older. The girls are named Ted and Bill, like they have the middle names of their fathers, but they're Wilhelmina, you know. That's like right. and you know, like stuff like that. So it's got like it's very interesting. You've got some great returning players. So first of all, the setup. So Alex Winter is back as Bill, and he slips into the shoes in an amazing way. He's exactly like Bill. He just like turns him back on.
Turns it on.
Ted, played by Keanu. I mean, what can I say about Keanu other than I love this guy so much? He's like one of my all-time G's. I really want to work with him. I would love to work with Alex as well. You know, like, to be honest, they're both amazing guys. But Keanu loves a lot of the stuff I love. Like, he loves riding. He makes great bikes. He's into
got that John Wick look in this film, isn't
he? Does. He just looks like a shaved John Wick, like John Wick on his day off. But basically, he must be filming John Wick like simultaneously, and maybe he could just shave for it. And then maybe when we see the next John Wick film, he's just grown a slightly shorter beard, maybe, with John. Yeah. Like, John's got a kind of cleaner look, maybe going into John Wick 4. I know that John Wick and 4 are being shot back-to-back. That's the news I heard. So whether or not that actually happens due to COVID, I think they're just still in pre. And they're also eyeing him up for Moon Knight. That was the like the latest kind of rounds of rumors that were going around. So I would personally love to direct him in a Moon Knight film. That would be kind of like my version of Batman, because like Moon Knight's the Batman of kind of DC. So sort of like, you know, like Marvel tend to split characters that look very similar to DC in half. So Black Panther's money and style are kind of like one side of Bruce Wayne, but Moon Knight's look and the kind of attitude about being this Dark Knight, because it's called Moon Knight, not the Dark Knight. You know what I mean? So basically, they all kind of play on each other. Like, you've got like this guy called, I don't know, Sentry, and you've got like these guys called like Imperium and stuff. These dudes are like pastiches of, if I pronounced that right, but you know, like pastiches of Superman. You know what I mean? So they've all got their own kind of characters with different levels of kind of importance. Whereas like Superman is like a really important character, whereas Sentry's kind of like a side character most of the time. He doesn't. He tends to be a kind of like a unilateral character that's utilized in kind of like big wars and stuff.
Yeah.
So, going back to the movie, the script was kind of laid out in like roughly in about 2010, but it still took almost 10 years.
So it's stuck in production
yeah,
now, right?
to find a distributor that would kind of like, you know, want to, you know, like get this movie out. And it actually, because, you know, like, because of the COVID situation, they had to kind of release it on VOD and cinemas. So I think the box office taking of the film won't be strong, but the VOD numbers will. So hopefully that will lead to a sequel. There's a lot of great gags in this. The production design, cinematography, and graphic work are really good. So now the time circuits have been updated. The phone booth
in like Ultra HD now.
Yeah, so it's really great. I think it was shot probably on Red or, you know, like Sony Venice or something, and like one of those but yeah, maybe even the Alexa. I love that format. Like, Alexa's great. I mean, Rogue Legacy, our latest film, was shot on Red, so, you know, the camera kit, Red is really good format. It's like, I really love the depth of it and the workflow. It's a good camera system, and, you know, I'm just like a big kid with my toys, man, when it comes to cinematography and cameras. I got a huge passion for them, so whenever I work with DOPs, I love to talk about kit, lenses, and, you know, like, we just all kind of nerd out on all this wicked stuff, you know, like, getting the right kind of frame and that depth of field is really important to me. And that cinematography. I love cinematography. It's just really cool. Now, you know, Dean Parisot, if you don't know his name, I'll just let you in. He's the director of one of my all-time favorite films, Galaxy Quest. That's one of the best Star Trek movies ever made. And it's not a Star Trek movie. Yeah. It's actually basically a parody of Star Trek.
Yes.
And if you haven't seen Galaxy Quest, you're missing out on greatness. It's one of the all-time favorite films because it pokes fun at like the kind of like
Star Wars,
the fandom, you know, the actors. Oh my god, man, it's just so good. I mean, it's just genius.
Fan base, kind of trivia.
Yeah.
Actors, you know, the whole gist of it is hilarious.
Yeah, so it's really interesting. I mean, there's funny trivia about the film because they kicked around about the idea of making the sequel for years, but a lot of studios felt that the film was very kind of like, it had like a kind of culty following, but they didn't see like that it would have a kind of like a mass market appeal. They felt like kind of like the drum had already been beaten enough on the franchise. Now I have a kind of like a mixed feeling about that because while I'm a huge Bill and Ted fan, and I loved the idea of the third film, you know, when it was arriving, I was really kind of like pumped for it. I felt that the second film closed the kind of storyline full circle. The third film kind of messes it up a little bit, but not too bad, if you kind of get what I mean. Like, it's okay. Like, you can still add the third one as... It's not as bad as Blade Trinity. You get what I mean? Like, that's a terrible kind of sequel. And a few other films, like Rise of Skywalker and stuff. But other than that, it's pretty good. Z, tell me what you thought about the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite a nice film. It kind of has some cool jokes in it and stuff. There are a few bits where the film kind of slows down a little in certain areas, but we'll talk about like the kind of basic premise of the film and what the film's about compared to the second and the first film. Yeah.
Now, another interesting thing that I read about the film is that, you know, when Keanu was actually going through a period of lackluster hits, so like when his films were kind of not bringing anything to the box office too much, like it's, you know, like Constantine is good, but it didn't perform so well, and you know, a few of his other films that he did, after John Wick made him kind of big again, you know, like in a box office draw.
Yeah.
This is when people started looking at a lot of projects that he was attached to, and this is kind of where Bill and Ted 3 kind of got a little bit of a resurrection.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he talked to like you know, like eventually they found like kind of like
more
media
producers.
investors like David Haring and Patrick Duggan. They came in to provide more financial backing for the film. So by 2014, they were doing more rigorous script reworkings, and you know, there was an effort to find a studio. So Alex Winter himself has said that John Wick did a lot to kind of, you know, draw attention, but he didn't believe that that film fundamentally, was responsible for getting the film made, because they still struggled with like long-term financial deals. So it was like up and down, Yeah. Steven Soderbergh, ironically, was a producer on this film. So
now, we all know him from where, right?
He did Solaris, did he? I'm trying to remember what else he does. Solaris is the first film that always comes in my mind of him, right? What else did Soderbergh do? What's the film I like from him? I can't remember. Like
he's done a lot of films. I mean, he's a very well-known director.
He's a good director. I'm just trying to remember one film that I really like of his, but I can't remember is his. Oh, he did Erin Brockovich, Out of Sight,
Traffic.
Yeah, Magic Mike. For me, it's his ocean films.
Oh,
I forgot he did the ocean films. I love Ocean's 13
trilogy.
Yeah, Ocean's 11 and Ocean 13 is my favorite. I hate 12. 12 is a horrible film.
12 sucks.
It just
makes
sucks.
No sense.
It's too slow.
Boring, dry,
they made Catherine Zeta-Jones's character so dry, wasted her range. Made her
like how she was in Rock of Ages.
Yeah, she's a very, very energetic, very, very, very sharp actress. With a great range, and she just was so amazing in Mask of Zorro. So what I'm thinking is that you've got such talent, and I'm thinking that there's just something wrong with that script, man. That script is just so rusty and so weird. Rusty, I made up some word. So it's like rushed and rusted, something together. But basically, I didn't like that, man. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's a producer on this film too, yeah?
Yeah, so he helped produce it.
Cool.
So that's what's really cool.
That's really cool.
It's good to see filmmakers helping filmmakers. Hopefully Steven can help us one day. Wink, wink. But we can do it. With or without anybody's help. So going to, the returning cosplayers, Bill Sadler's back.
Yeah, it's interesting how they had a resurrection of Orion Pictures, bro.
No, that's wicked, because Orion actually went bankrupt, right? But the licensing and name, I think, are still owned by the parent studio. So what they did is as Orion Pictures, they've kind of resurrected the name under the umbrella of like MGM or someone, I think it is.
Cool.
So that's what's really wicked about the film. So I don't know what the first film was to like show Orion Pictures again, but I think it could have been one of Thingy's side projects. What's that kid's name? The Rice Davis or whatever, the guy who did Star Wars. What was his name?
Rian Johnson.
Rian Johnson. I think one of Rian Johnson's old kind of films or something that he was doing was the one that had like Orion Pictures Resurrected logo. I'm not really too sure, because he started that. I'm not really too sure if he started that. Don't quote me on that, but I just remember seeing Orion's resurrection in one of these kind of like films lately.
Right.
So that's really interesting. You've got some new characters. You've got like Samara Weaving, Bridget Lundy Payne playing like their daughters. You've got returning people, so you got the dad back. You've got I think you've got two different actresses playing the wives, though. So the princesses, they're different actresses. Kid Coodie's in the film, which is like kind of random.
Funny, yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. So
obviously there's the thing is that this third film is a interesting amalgamation of, I'd say, the second film and the first film.
Yeah.
So there's references in this film about finding historical figures and getting their help in achieving the goal at the end of this film. But also there's the supernatural elements from the second film included in this film. So it's kind of like the two films mashed together.
Yeah.
And what the premise is this time round is that Bill and Ted, the future is not really happy with what Bill and Ted have done. And for like maybe they say I think about 15 or 20 years, they haven't been able to do very successful careers, and they've made music with death in their band, and they've been making a lot of music, but it hasn't been successful very much. And they're struggling to kind of like have a goal with their daughters and their marriages, because obviously they're married to the princesses now, They've had two really great girls as daughters. So Bill has his daughter, and Ted has his daughter, and they got their own personalities. And it's really nice to see Samara Weaving and Bridget Lundy play both their daughters. You know, in
they
very
played them
different
quite well.
roles.
They played them kind of like, you know, they have the mannerisms and characteristics of their parents, but they're also their own people as well at the same time. So that's just good. I mean, they're chilling, they're doing their own stuff. They've actually got day jobs, which is quite funny, whereas their dad and Bill and Ted are like, you know, still trying to do Wyld Stallions and stuff, and probably living off of their royalty checks, I guess. You know, and the thing is that it tries to follow the ending montage where it said that Wyld Stallions like toured everywhere with their song. They had like some kind of song, but it was massive.
Oh yeah.
So they had like a massive, like
hit.
they're almost like a one-hit wonder, you know, like the group. And then something happened basically with Death trying to take the Wyld Stallions name and them having some kind of falling out. So that also happened in the printout. So you know they were trying to talk about Death having an ego, but then him returning to Wyld Stallions. So that's a nice throwback to what happens in this film. So mild spoilers, if you haven't seen the film yet, check the film out before listening to this podcast. But a lot of great stuff happens because like the antagonists this time are actually the council. So Rufus's wife has a daughter with Rufus. Rufus is not in the film. They've kind of treated
Kelly
they've treated George Carlin's death with a bit of respect, and they just said that Rufus is also passed on. The original phone booth is now a memorial.
Yeah, in the future,
in the gardens of the future, like the city of the future. And then Kristen Schaal plays Kelly, which is supposed to be kind of like based on Kelly Carlin, George Carlin's daughter. So it's a tribute to him, you know. So his daughter Kelly comes, tells them come to the future. Now they've got this kind of egg-shaped, kind of like Easter egg looking kind of time ship, isn't it?
Yeah.
So like in the future they've kind of gone away with that phone booth thing. So that was very interesting. Then the Circuit of Time looked much nicer.
Oh yeah, the CGI and stuff and all the special effects are 10 times better because obviously they've been made for ultra HD cinema, like the newer standard of cinema. So they've been definitely up the level in terms of visual effects.
It was a very interesting film to see because I was talking to Pri about it, and I was pumping it up for her, but when she actually watched it, you know, she just started getting really tired. You know, like watching the movie, like for her it was difficult for her to engage, you know, like fully, because like a lot of the jokes in the movie are throwbacks to the first film.
Yeah.
So there was wicked things that me and you were laughing about and loving, but for newer audiences that was
Missy and Deacon.
Yeah, I mean Missy and Deacon ended up together made me laugh.
Yeah, I mean the opening scene in the first few minutes of the film is very odd, and they kind of set up the way they set up the situation now with Bill and Ted is very interesting.
Yeah, I mean Z, set it up for us. Tell us what's going on, man.
Yeah, so basically we see Bill and Ted at a wedding reception, but the funny thing is the wedding reception is for his younger brother. So in the previous films, his younger brother, Ted's younger brother called Deacon, was always like, you know, like the younger one to Ted, sorry, and his dad wasn't very strict with him. He was less like kind of like harder on Deacon than he was on Ted.
Yeah.
But then you see as they're kind of performing on stage, doing this weird kind of sequence,
new age kind of song.
New age instrument. It's very odd and very existential.
Yeah.
You see that the younger brother is now married to the character of Missy, who was obviously in the previous films married to Ted and Bill's dad. So you think like, what the hell is going on here? And it was so weird and funny to see that.
So basically, like, so his stepmother is now his wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like really strange, and that is weird, but weird in their own way. So yeah, some really interesting stuff happens at the start. They're supposed to
also
make
there's
the
like
song,
undertones that his dad says, like about, oh, you guys dreamt about going to hell, or you dreamt about going
his
back
dad
in
still
time.
believes it's all a lie.
He thinks
They're
it's
not
still all a
princesses
lie,
and stuff.
He's too much of a realist.
Yeah. But what I
their
don't
dad.
get yet is that how does he
Ted's
believe
dad.
that and like that they dreamt it up if he ran into the anomalous and arrested him?
That's true.
So that is a bit of a plot hole.
Yeah.
That is seriously a plot hole. Unless his dad
Continuity
thought
goof.
that he was just the guy trying to
Some
kill him
felon,
or something,
yeah.
some nut.
Yeah.
You know. So, but then obviously his dad's getting old, so maybe they were trying to say he was getting senile or something. I don't know.
Maybe.
But
who knows?
you know, yeah. What else happened? I lost my trail of thought. Like,
So obviously, they're trying to find this great music. Obviously, then they go to do couples therapy with their wives, isn't
yeah,
it?
that bit's a bit weird. I kind of feel that that's kind of unnecessary. I couldn't really connect with that scene.
Yeah.
There was some humor in it because they're obviously like a tight unit,
Yeah.
but the wives are acting like they're not individually love them. They
That's
love them
right.
as like a unit.
And you've got that actress Gillian Bell playing the therapist.
She's
from,
hilarious.
22 Jump
Oh
Street.
man,
She's
she
so
was
funny.
so good in that film. 22 Jump Street is one of my all-time favorite films. That film was so funny. Say something cool.
Something cool.
And my name is Jim. Like, so hilarious. That film is really good. And
But yeah, then obviously the character of Kelly comes to see Bill and Ted, tells them about like they have to go to the future. So then they get this. They have this timeline or some deadline, isn't it? Until 7 o'clock.
yeah,
or
they're saying
8
that
o'clock
it's some
in the
kind of
evening.
like special anchor point in time, and if they don't,
like a nexus.
yeah, if they don't do it, all of time unravels, you know, somehow. So that's really strange, and then they have to try and figure out. So there's this massive, beautiful kind of Matrix style bit where like the guitars come up. Like the,
Yeah.
you know, like the guns, where he's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
guns,
yeah.
lots
We
of
need
guns.
guitars,
It's almost
lots of guitars.
so it's kind of like a homage to that a
Homage to
little
that,
bit.
yeah.
That's the thing I got off of
Little
it when I
touch
saw
it,
it, and
yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't wait for like. By the way, you know, like I can't wait for Keanu to come back as Neo. So I wonder what kind of comic resurrection kind of thing the Wachowskis have planned. So like Lana's directing it now, and I think she's gonna do an amazing job with this film. You know, like it's a shame they're both not directing it, both sisters, because they're both very talented and very amazing directors. But it's gonna be very interesting. I mean, like Carrie Ann Moss and Keanu are back, but Lawrence Fishburne isn't. So I wonder what type of time has passed. Perhaps in the human world, time has moved forward and maybe Morpheus got old, you know, and then retired and then, you know, passed on. Then perhaps somebody else takes over. And then this is possibly a resurrection cycle for Trinity and Neo. So they find themselves back in a new Matrix, trying to break out, maybe.
Maybe. I don't know. Like, yeah, we'll see.
But anyway, that's going to be interesting. So, going back to this film, you got a lot of different people in this time around. You got, you know... Oh! You know, the robot that they create.
Oh, yeah.
The robot that they create makes you laugh so much, man.
Yeah, I
He's
think
funny.
that's where the film kind of shifts into a different gear.
Because they have the anomalous type bad guy, and they have the bad evil robot Bill and Ted kind of bad guy. So they kind of copied a little bit of what the second film and the first one is. It's a merger of both films, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because they have to bring the historical figures together to create the song to make their ultimate band, but this time the girls do it. So basically, the girls are like, we're gonna go through time. So the girls go through. You're kind of setting up.
Bill and Ted go first. That's what's the funny part.
Yeah, but Bill and Ted don't go to build the band. It's the girls' idea to go through time to pick up historical figures to build the band.
Bill and Ted go forward, don't they? They want to get the song.
What Bill and Ted decide to do is that sometime in the future they wrote the song.
Yes.
So they wanted to go. So they go forward, but they run into like drunk kind of emo, kind of like bum versions of themselves who run away from them. So basically, Ted's a hard drinker now. He kind of looks like some kind of like Nicky Sticks kind of wash up. Yeah, so he looks like one of the guys who basically toured too hard and then couldn't let it go and stuff. And they don't have the song, so they have like a beef with them. And then, damn, I can't remember what happens there, that bit.
They just kind of like tell him, oh, your wives are gonna run away from you.
Yeah,
and
they
then
leave
freak
you.
out and they're
Yeah.
gonna leave you. And then they kind of keep running around looking for like future versions of Bill and Ted to kind of like
Yeah.
talk to get the song.
So they keep jumping forward, right?
And then there's a funny scene.
There's
a funny scene
the
where
funny
they go
one
to
where they
the
meet
house.
the English versions of those songs, which is so funny.
Yeah, the posh English
The
versions.
kind of ones who made it, you know?
We're Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
It's so funny because it's like they basically go to this giant mansion that they think Bill and Ted live at.
Uh-huh.
And I won't spoil it because it's funnier to see it in the film.
Yeah.
But basically they kind of get like screwed over by their other versions of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
The kind of English eccentric kind of like posh versions of Bill and Ted.
Yeah.
And they think that they've given them the song, but they kind of like trick them.
They're the same dudes. The
They're
ones
the
who were
same,
like
yeah.
the acoustic-y ones,
Yeah,
right?
I think
They were
so.
waiting for so long to set them up.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be like Dave Grohl's house, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I was like, what are you doing in my house? Like, Dave Grohl's got this wicked cameo, and that guy's a G, man. He's like such a wicked guitarist and drummer and songwriter for the Foo Fighters. So then the police come, his dad comes. His brother is actually a cop now.
Yes.
You know, so that's the
he
other
followed
thing.
in his
Yeah, so he
dad's-
followed in his dad's footsteps. So I'm sure he's his dad's favorite spoilt son. Isn't it? So
Yeah.
for him, it's like really easy because he just hasn't looked like a slacker. He's followed his dad almost completely.
That's right.
Like a bit of a clone of his dad, but a couple of fries short of a Happy Meal. You know, you get what I mean? So, so like that bit's really funny when they try to escape. You know, like does Dennis come? That robot dude? He starts firing at them, or he just misses them, or what?
Yeah,
He actually
kinda going
accidentally
through
kills
the
his
film.
dad, right?
Yeah.
He shoots Bill's dad and kills Bill's dad,
At
basically.
that point, yeah.
So Bill's dad's like, falling through purgatory, going down to like the underworld or hell or whatever. So his dad's gonna be sent to hell because obviously he was a douchebag to Ted, I guess. So yeah, like there's a lot of really great things that happen in this movie. There's a lot of nice throwbacks to the old film. I like that. I loved a lot of the throwbacks to the old film. They were really fun. You know, and also their wardrobe reflects their kind of age, so they're starting to wear slightly more mature clothes, like, you know, Ted's rocking a shirt, you know, Thing's still rocking his kind of like plaid style, you know, outfits and stuff, you know, and things. So it's like really funny. You know, the wardrobe, the look, you know, still in San Dimas, you still got that California kind of, you know, that great Californian weather and things and stuff. It's just really cool. Really cool. And so what else happens in the movie, man? That's like really fun.
Well, I think the introduction of the robot is quite funny because there's a lot of nice costume design, kind of like visual effects and production design for the robot killer that's trying to track down Bill and Ted, because obviously the future has sent this, they believe at that point in time, that if they kill Bill and Ted, it will clean up the rift in all of reality, is the premise of the story.
Rufus's pocket watch is really cool too.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
like,
quite cool.
It's kind of like a timer to like remind Bill and Ted of like the time that they have. So they also end up meeting these super jacked versions of themselves,
that's
isn't
so
it?
funny.
The ones that got left behind
Super
to take
Jack
the rap.
and Bill and Ted.
So they were like in prison and really mad at them and stuff. Basically because of the time displacement and the weird things going on, Kid Cudi and a few other people get thrown out of time. So like they disappear from wherever they need to be. Beethoven's in it again, I think, or is it, who is it this time? Amadeus? Mozart?
I think it's Mozart. Yeah, it's slightly different.
So basically, they've got another guy, another historical film. Jimmy Page is in it. Not Jimmy Page, sorry. Jimi Hendrix is in the film. So there's that, and then like
And Louis Armstrong.
Louis Armstrong's also in the movie, played by, you know, like another young. So it's like a young Louis Armstrong and stuff. So they're doing their stuff, you know, like and what happens is just that like they go and collect the people, but they end up getting killed by Dennis. He like accidentally kills them, right?
Yeah.
So he ends up sending like Bill and Ted's daughter and you know, the guys down to hell. So then Bill and Ted have to get killed. So they have to go back down there. Then they go and talk to Death, who's been demoted. So he's just basically like one of those kind of like band members who had a falling out with the band. So he's sad. He still plays their riffs, and he's got like Wyld Stallion memorabilia, but he's like really sad. But he won't talk to them. It's like
He's like a moping old band member.
yeah. then the girls go and talk to him and kind of like kind of buck him back up, you know, like get him to get back into the show, and then they kind of like go back to the real world, you know, like they take
and
the
there's
Wyld
like
Stallion
funny
van.
parallels between the daughters traveling back through time, the wives traveling back through time, in and out of time.
Yeah. The wives
And
actually end up going and meeting their older selves who also come back in time and tell them not to be with them or something. So that creates like a mess for them. They just make it worse, you know, and create more of a divide between them and stuff. But then later on, they're able to repair their relationship, so that's good. So that goes to show that like if you work at it and you still love someone, you can make it happen. You know, like you just keep it going, and you know it's really good. I would say the one negative at the end of the film is when realities are all converging, and then it turns out that Bill and Ted aren't really the ones that actually make the song. It's the sort of like technically the other Bill and Ted. So it's Wilhelmina and Theodora, or you know whatever her name is.
Yeah.
So it's actually basically their daughters that actually create the song, and so the kind of the kind of like storyline is that it's their children that actually create the society with them, some kind of like universal music theory, some kind of universal key. And our love for music as humans, that's the one thing I really loved about the film though, because as human beings, we have this beautiful ability to create through music, art, you know, and film, and there's a sort of like a universal kind of energy and light. I call it the spark of creativity. So the spark of creativity is very important to us at the R.E.P Knights. It's what basically, like, you know, is one of the reasons why we are so driven the way we are. And this film kind of touches on that, you know, like that they all came together and they feel that kind of spark of energy between each other, that creative energy that helps everybody create and make magic. So that's what they do. So the girls end up making some kind of weird kind of beats kind of tune with a little bit of guitar stuff in it.
Yeah, with
and
death
so everyone gets kind of given
everyone.
instruments at the end, and you know they make like the ultimate kind of song that attunes, you know, the universe together or something. You know, the timelines, everything kind of converges and stuff. Really, that stuff's kind of not important because, like, you know, I would see that as the only kind of like little negative of the film was that, you know, like they were setting the girls up to be like this kind of, they were trying to spin it off so that like Bill and Ted would probably be both of them in the future, maybe, you know, like they could spin it off into a series, or they were doing some kind of sequel setup or something with the girls kind of taking over, like they might make it like a Netflix show. Maybe you'll probably hear next year them saying something like, oh hey, there's a Bill and Ted show about the daughters, it's called Wyld Stallions or something. You know what I mean? So you know, possibly that's what they could be doing. We don't know. So that thing was a little bit, you know, it wasn't off-putting, I would say, but it was predictable. I had a feeling when they introduced the daughters that they would do something like this.
Yeah.
You know, I could just tell, and I even told Z that, you know, possibly the daughters are kind of like being put into the film to, you know, like not only try to appeal to a younger demographic. So the film feels a little bit committee made, so they had to make some kind of sacrifices to kind of get the film financed, so the original probably vision of the film was probably different to what we've actually finally seen. But overall, it's a good film. I don't mind it.
I think it's a good film.
I definitely think it's the weakest of the three, to be very honest. Like, but that's gonna happen because it just took so long to make. So even with all of its visuals and all of its stuff going on, it just doesn't have that same kind of nostalgic thunder that the first two have.
Yeah.
You know, like it brings a lot of nostalgia back, and I liked it, but it's definitely never gonna be as good as the first film. I'll always watch it as a bonus. You know, like as the bonus third film.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm not even sure if they need to make a fourth film. You know, like it was so good. The first and second one was so perfect. The third one, you know, is a great addition. I don't mind it. I don't see how a fourth film would add to it, you know, in any way, other than maybe doing a Wyld Stallions spin-off with the girls.
Yeah.
Like a series or something. So, what do you think, bro? Like, tell me more about what you think.
What do you want to know? Good points or bad points?
Yeah, tell me the bad points. What do you think?
I think,
what did you pick up on?
In my opinion, some of the bad points in this film were the kind of over reliance on the premises from the first two films.
Okay.
I mean, I like the robot character Dennis. I think he's quite funny, and his humor is very offbeat and stuff. But I thought they could have done something different instead of having another killer robot trying to kill Bill and Ted. I thought they could have explored. Obviously, Keanu and Alex Winter both tried to play like different personalities in the future versions of their kind of bombed out Bill and Ted's, and I think that's quite cool. But we could have seen like maybe some other kind of like aspect of Bill and Ted, of how they're coping with, you know, their wives and stuff, and how they're trying to work at the band. You know, they kind of like touch on what they're trying to do with the band very little, because there's such a large gap that they have to fill in the premise and the story and the narrative. So I think the gap itself is a kind of curse to the film, somewhat, a little bit. The other points I would say that was slightly lacking in the film is the soundtrack is very weak in this film. It's very funny because in the scene that Ray mentioned earlier with Dave Grohl, I was kind of finding it a bit odd that they've got Dave Grohl as a kind of glorified cameo in this film, but they don't use any of his fantastic music.
So Foo Fighters didn't do a song for it?
Yeah, like you could have had
at least
Foo
I'm not aware of.
Who is a much better modern band of our era in the modern time, who have had such a phenomenal impact on music, could have played a large role in this film and shaping the music in this film. I mean, there's little touches that the girls do, the daughters, in terms of visiting older music, but that's fine for older music. But more modern contemporary music, especially modern contemporary rock music, could have played a better part in this film in terms of shaping
there's like
it.
no Tremonti.
Yeah,
you could have had like Tremonti. You could
Alter
have had Van
Bridge
Halen back, or Alter Bridge,
or newer Van Halen.
I mean,
stuff.
I'm surprised Miles Kennedy ain't in this film, man.
Yeah,
you know, he could have helped him. You know,
Yeah.
something like could have been like the lead vocalist in the group or something.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. And I think, again, I love Death to Bits. I think Bill Sadler plays a great Death, and seeing him again, I thought he could have had a few more scenes where he could have done a few more
kind of
jokes.
arrives into the film late, right?
Yeah,
Almost as though
he
they're
arrives
saving money
very
or
late,
something.
yeah.
You know, the film feels like 3 or 4 segments, like they filmed the film in pieces maybe to save money.
possibly,
I don't know, I'm
yeah.
not really too sure.
But overall, it's a pretty cool little film to watch, like with some popcorn and some friends and stuff, and just chill out and check it out.
Replay value wise, it doesn't have the same kind of replay value as the first and second film have. So mostly it'll be tacked on into the trilogy box sets and stuff. I wouldn't go out of my way to die to buy it. I'd buy it probably just to complete the trilogy. You know, I saw on you know, like on VOD. So you know, I never got a chance to see it in the cinema because of this COVID stuff. So yeah, I mean, it was an interesting thing. It suffered because of that.
Yeah,
and that's a shame. Like
Yeah.
it's quite a good film. It's not so bad.
yeah.
It's not so bad at all.
I think it's a good effort by the whole crew, and the cast, and the director Dean Parisot. So let's give it a rating, bro.
You go first, bro.
Okay,
This one.
so-
Tell me what you think.
I would give it maybe a solid 3 out of 5. I think it's just there in the middle.
Yeah, I'd give it 3 out of 5 as well. You're right. So that would give it a solid kind of 3. So it's okay.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it wouldn't be
average.
It wouldn't be recommended. It would just be like, if you want to watch it, you know, I'd recommend it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like they tried, but it just took too long, in my opinion.
I think it was an unfortunate kind of, what's the term? It's like an unfortunate.
It's a belated sequel that took too
Yeah.
long to make. There's another one that has that same problem. I can't remember what it was, but belated sequels sometimes suffer from too much drag down. You know, you've built yourself up. You've already conjured up ideas in your head. Like I had ideas for sequels in my head, that are like much better than this. But you want to let the original creators run with their vision, and it just takes too long. So it loses its thunder. It loses its steam.
Yeah.
It's like if they made a Back to the Future now. It would
wouldn't
have the
work.
exact same problem.
Yeah, it wouldn't work.
It would have the exact same problem because it's just like it's a product of its time.
Yeah.
You can make the effects look amazing. You can make the DeLorean come back. You could de-age Michael J. Fox. You could do so much with him and Doc. Yeah,
Exactly.
but eventually you would have someone else come. So you'd have to create a new Marty kind of character in his son or his daughter, and then that's where everything would be derailed because it's a perfectly closed off arc. It's a story about Doc and a coming of age story for Marty. You get what I mean? Him fixing, his life, trying to make it work. So that's the issue with that. Sometimes you just have to let things lie where they are, and just end that. Don't basically don't allow things to sometimes you just have to let go of things. Like, I know some people want to keep their licenses going, Disney, but basically, they want to keep their copyright, so they keep making these remakes. But come on, man. I think the original Lion King director disowned Jon Favreau's version of Lion King because it's a carbon copy of his film.
Okay.
So the original creators actually, I can't remember what it was, but they themselves, did they copy that Japanese Kimba, the lion? I remember reading all about that. So that's another story for another day. But it's good. It's alright.
Yeah, it was a good film. And I still would recommend it up to a point, but not without watching the first two films. I say go watch the first two films, then check out Bill and Ted Face the Music.
Yeah, bro. So, you want to outro us out?
Yeah, so thank you very much for listening to the House of Rep. Make sure you like and subscribe our content. Make sure you listen to House of Rep on Spotify, Anchor and Castbox. Apple Podcasts we have on there as well. So thank you for listening, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the House of Rep.
Thanks, guys. We'll see you on the next one.